Enjoying that cup of joe this morning? Researchers recently went to find out how many cups of coffee a day is actually safe for you. Dr. Richard Chaffoo is here with more. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so we had a very interesting conversation during the break. So let me ask you this. How many cups of coffee is actually safe for us to drink every day?
So it's a fascinating study that came out from the University of South Australia, and they looked at that question. And what they found was that if you're consuming or drinking 6 or more cups of coffee a day,
Whoa.
you increase your risk for heart disease by 22%. So that's significant, considering heart disease is a global killer, #1 killer in the world.
Okay, so you said 6 or more, so that's
6
the
or more.
dangerous amount.
That's a dangerous amount.
So as long as you're staying under that number, and you know, for
Yes.
some people, they might say, wow, 6 is too much. But really, you think about the people who work overnight shifts. I was just
Exactly.
telling you, when I used to produce overnights and I would come in at midnight, I was having at least 5 cups a day because of it.
And we're not really aware of how much we drink during the day. We just forget we remember that first cup, but we forget that, you know, it's multiple times during the day. And I think another important thing for the public to understand that what we're talking about is the caffeine that's the issue.
Okay,
the
so
stimulant.
it's not the creamer and the sugar. You're
No.
talking specifically about caffeine.
That's what these researchers showed, that because it's a stimulant, and what happens with a stimulant like the caffeine is with time it raises our blood pressure.
Okay.
And unfortunately, high blood pressure oftentimes goes undetected because we don't have symptoms of it. People don't typically get dizzy, they don't typically get headaches or lightheadedness. With hypertension, they develop diseases like heart disease, like stroke,
Okay.
kidney disease, later on after you've had high blood pressure for a long period of time. And so what these researchers showed was that prolonged excess caffeine will cause permanent damage to the arteries to the heart, and that's why it does increase our risk for heart disease.
But drinking coffee every day is not necessarily a bad thing either, because there are some benefits.
Exactly. Well, we know that within plants, some of the naturally occurring products are what we call polyphenols, and that's found to have a healthy benefit. But so it's not really those factors, it's the caffeine that's the main culprit.
Interesting. Okay, Doc, because we have you here,
Okay.
there was another study that helped pinpoint the foods that can actually help lower blood pressure.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about high blood pressure? What does that mean?
Sure. So high blood pressure is simply a blood pressure that is maintained or sustained above a normal level. And normal levels vary based upon your height, your age, your weight, many different factors. So if you have persistently elevated blood pressure, that affects the arteries all over our body. And so the arteries that we're most concerned with are arteries to the heart, they're end arteries, arteries to the brain, the vessels in our neck, the carotid arteries, arteries to our kidneys. And so long-term hypertension causes damage to those arteries, they get thicker walled, they ultimately close off, there's decreased blood flow to those vital organs, and we see heart disease, we see strokes, we see renal failure.
Oh, okay. So that's what it means.
Very serious.
So let's get to the food that they're
Yes.
recommending. There was only one vegetable, right, on this list?
Broccoli,
Broccoli.
right?
Okay, so we're looking at the food right now on the screen. So can we go over these?
Of course.
Okay.
So a lot of these products are really high in calcium. So obviously milk, yogurt, tofu, orange juice is fortified with calcium. Pita bread, interesting, like we said,
Wow,
broccoli
okay.
is another very healthy factor. There are also foods that are rich in potassium that are very beneficial, very heart beneficial. Things like squash and sweet potatoes and salmon and avocados. Those are also thought to be very heart healthy types of foods.
But you said potassium, that's the key.
Calcium and potassium, those two elements are very important.
Okay. Oh my
And
gosh.
small amounts of chocolate. Polyphenols, which we find in berries, which we find in coffee, we also find in chocolate. So small amounts of chocolate probably are helpful.
Now, are you talking about milk chocolate or dark chocolate?
Any kind of chocolate,
Any
probably.
kind of chocolate?
Yes.
Oh no, Dr. Chaffoo, this is troubling because I love chocolate. Okay, but you said only a little bit.
Small amounts, exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Good to see you.
I'm gonna have my cup of coffee and my little bit of chocolate, and don't forget your broccoli.
Right.
So all these things.
All important.
Pretty easy.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.